story ASMR video. Today we are going to be reading a book that someone recommended, one of you guys actually, and I thought it would be very interesting to look into it. I personally have not finished a story quest related, or the world quest related to this book, but since it's a world quest, I don't really mind being spoiled. For me, it's not the same as the main quest. But anyways, the title of this book is The History of the Decline and Fall of Remuria. I'm actually not sure how to pronounce Remuria, so I'm going to pronounce it that way, but it might be Remuria or something else, not sure. Anyways, so this book has 3 volumes in it. The first volume can be purchased from Hubel in the Court of Fontaine in the Quartier Narbonnais. The second volume can be found in the Palais Marmonia, and the third book is the same as the first one. It can be purchased from Hubel in the Quartier Narbonnais. The volumes aren't too long. I'm gonna try and read it at a normal to slow pace. I'm also gonna try and add some background music, just so that it's really relaxing, really soothing. And yeah, I've decided to do this one soft spoken just because I feel like bedtime stories are often better with a soft spoken voice rather than whispered. And also the background music is always better when it's soft spoken. So yeah. Anyway, let us get started. The History of the Decline and Fall of Remuria. Volume 1. The ocean gave birth to all, yet also devoured everything. Legend has it that in the first era, the earliest peoples were self-supporting in their virtue, needing no laws or authorities. The envoys of the heavenly city woke the earth, and with their guidance, the people enjoyed enduring peace, prosperity, and abundance from the ancient days. This heaven-blessed reign lasted countless generations until people grew tired of their inscrutable eternity. Their offspring ceased to listen to the oracles. Instead, they desired things never promised to them by the divine, trying to break free from their fate. Enraged by their behavior, heaven sent gigantic waves to smash the settled cities. 100 days of rain came afterward, and the roaring tides drowned all sin and arrogation, and thus were the early peoples brought to an end. When the tide receded and the earth was revealed again, no cities nor civilization now stood above the high waters. Survivors and the newborn alike lived amidst the forest and rivers, shorn of all knowledge and wisdom. Human lives were no different from those of wild animals on the earth or in the sea, driven on by the laws of nature, muddling through time with neither beginning nor end. Untold years passed. The throne of Gurabad was established and overturned in the far south, and noble kindred of the east once reached the rim of the high waters. All while our ancestors remained bound by ignorance and superstition. Civilization and order were finally restored to the land named Fontaine the day the great King Remus descended upon Meripis in his golden fortuna. He taught people how to farm and raise crops in the land and built temples and cities with giant rocks to house the people. Most importantly, it was he who spread the beauty of music and art, which differentiated humans from other living things, causing them to see themselves as masters of all things. With his immortal fleet, Remus conquered all the islands on the high waters. Even the great dragon beneath the abyssal depths submitted to his power. Those were the best days since the end of earliest peoples, and eternal prosperity seemed so near at hand. The God King and his people indulged in the sweet dreams of carefree lives and fantasies of never-ending progress. However, seers prophesied discord. The greatest empire will face the most utter destruction, and this is Fortuna. Thus did the God King derive the primordial plan from the 7-day rotation and the flowing winds of sea and land, and composed a harmonious symphony of prosperity. He believed that so long as all the cities echoed with this greatest of song, they would escape the judgment of fate and at last reach the land of eternal bliss. But thusly do the ancient writers concur. Oceans will rise, empires will fall, and the only constant is change. Volume 2. Greatness and glory unto Remuria and its immortal ruler Remus, king of all under heaven and universal harmost. Today, the glamour and luxury of the bygone eternal city is beyond the imagination of even the most knowledgeable scholars. As you sailed past the ocean pillars along the royal fairway to the giant port playing host to Fortuna, the imperial ship, you would have first seen a lofty tower. The Tower of Remuria was not built to receive heavenly oracles, but to guide ships traveling between islands in the high waters. It is said that the tower stood at the border of reality and dream. Even if sailors were to be lured into slumber by sirens, they could follow the sound of the bell to break through the mist and find their way to Remuria. Continuing along the royal fairway leading to Makimos, where the brave Remurians warriors lived. The grand temples and arenas were built with giant carved rocks to commemorate the city's glory and victory. The solid and towering walls are decorated with glaze and gold. Bronze and marble statues array the land, and gold, spices, and specialties from the world over piled up in the markets. Traveling through Makimos, you would arrive at Capitolium, the center of Remuria, overflowing with delightful aromas and beautiful melodies. It was a paradise for artists, where only the most outstanding intellectuals and musicians were allowed. Even among them, however, only a small fraction enjoyed the privilege of serving the God King. All the theaters and palaces were established in shapes most harmonious, their beams and domes adorned with the most sumptuous and intricate carvings and centered on a golden palace of towering copper pillars. The king, resting peacefully at the heart of the palace, listened closely to every melody and every note coming from every corner of the empire. Upon hearing any discord, the God King would correct it immediately with a pluck of his strings, bringing perfection to the symphony of his empire. To keep all the people upon the high water from destroying the symphony of universal harmony, King Remus promoted 4 humans of great capability to high post. He shared his power and authority with them, making them his partners in governance. The Harmos for all cities, to eliminate all discordant sounds. To spread the harmonious symphony throughout the world, he built far-reaching fairways which conveyed the melodies as never-ending ripples from Capitolium to every corner that sat above the high waters. Yet, fate's decree was not for even such as gods to defy, and to even attempt to escape destined judgment was a mortal sin. Amongst the God King's sins, the most terrible was the attempt to pass power that should have been reserved for the godly domain to humans. Thus, this power and status led to corruption and decadence, leading to violence and revolts. Such is fate's cunning that it uses the very powers that rebel against it to its own ends. When the day of destiny arrived, Remuria, the grand immortal city, faced an inevitable end. Today, the God King's melody is played only in Capitolium, and his mighty reign has ended. Thusly do the ancient writers concur. Oceans will rise, empires will fall, and the only constant is change. Volume 3. Humans, in their naivete, once believed that the reign of the King Remus and his eternal city would surpass time and fate to last thousands of years, just like the giant rocks comprising the ring ritual sites. Until that day, when the earth collapsed all at once, the tall tower was uprooted and drowned in the titanic waves alongside the great hall of pillars. Until that day, when the royal fairways and temples were reduced to ruins, and the city along with its residents, warriors, intellectuals, nobles, and even the golden palace, as glamorous as the shining sun, fell into the chasm of eternal darkness. That was the moment when the absurdity of their eternity finally dawned on them. Glory to her noble navigator, the ruler of rivers and seas, and the queen of all waters. May she defend the law, and may her reign be long. Peace upon all the realms of Fontaine, and all the people under the heavens. When the royal city collapsed, the great power shattered, and the people above the high water were perched on the precipice of barbarism and annihilation. It was her noble queen who settled the conflicts between the tribes. Around the flowing springs, we established cities new and started a world guided by laws that had endured to this day. The tragedy of Remuria occurred merely a century ago, but its history has already become concealed in legends and superstitions. This does partly come down to the fatal catastrophe that destroyed it. So ruthless and swift was the disaster that all the researchers and literature capable of passing down said knowledge now sleep beneath the waters with the eternal city. Another key reason is the purposeful distortions created by the mysterious researchers who claim to be descendants of Remuria. My job is to extract and reproduce the true, essential shape of this magnificent ancient civilization with the universal rationality of history. In certain folklore that exists today, even the greatest of ancient scholars have been painted as soul-stealing magisters who entrapped mortal spirits within special-made magical golems, binding them into service. To be sure, the Remurians did make such terrifying golems, which to this day may be found ruined out in the wild, but this may only be blamed upon the moral degeneration that came upon them in Remuria's latter days. Its people had forsaken their noble duties and embraced hedonism and debauchery, accepting the violence they inflicted on others, and thus were they also violently destroyed. Just as the ancient writers concur, oceans will rise, empires will fall, and the only constant is change. The end. Okay guys, I think I forgot to read a little bit of a side note to each volume. Let me just check that it was the same one for each one. Yes, it just gives us a insight on who wrote the book. So it says, It is said that the great scholar Pulteney wrote this epic historical work concerning the ancient Remurian civilization in the early years of the founding of Fontaine. So it gives us a little bit of an insight of the reason, like, why he was talking about present days, and he was saying we in some moments and in some passages and everything. So yeah, I don't know about you, but this was very intriguing to read. Like, I wish there was more to it. I wish there was more detail. I guess we can get it through the world quest. But this in itself made me want to complete the quest, just to learn more about everything. I want to apologize to you guys though if you were able to hear any background sounds while I was reading. I hope the background music covers it. But I think you could hear my chair cracking. It's been cracking like crazy. Hopefully I will get it changed soon. But yeah, I hope it was more like a sound of like we're sitting together. You can imagine it. We're sitting together and I'm reading a book for you. So yeah, but I was surprised because in the first volume, for example, they mention the throne of Gurabad. So they're talking about Sumeru. I think. Hold on, let me check. I think they're talking about Sumeru. Yeah, they are. Gurabad was in Sumeru. So it's like all of these civilizations that came before, like the regions that we know today in Genshin and Tevat, they were all aware of each other. So I think that's pretty cool, and this was pretty well written as well, which makes me think that a lot of effort is put into these books, or a lot more effort than we think, at least. So yeah, but I hope you enjoy this video, you guys. I don't have more to say, but let me know what you thought of it, what you think of the story. And yeah, I think it is time for me to wish you a good night or a good nap, or if you're using ASMR to try and focus on a task or a chore or even some schoolwork that you're trying to complete, well, good luck with that. I will see you again very, very soon for a new ASMR video. Love you guys. Bye bye.